Many denizens of the worlds of Warhammer are blessed or cursed with mighty horns. Coming in many shapes, sizes and colours, they are symbols of strength amongst some, a mark of chaos to others. In today's video, we'll be looking at how to paint 3 different coloured horns. We're using the Felgor Ravagers here to show off these awesome appendages. Here's a list of all the paints we'll be using. With that said, these are just our suggestions, so feel free to change them up to fit your colour scheme. And there's a list of additional equipment we've used. Same again, use whichever's comfortable for you. If you're new to painting and want to brush up your skills, check out our Painting Essentials playlist for more videos on how to paint. For these examples, I've undercoated the models in Chaos Black. However, any undercoat will work. If you have undercoated or painted up to a certain point with different colours, don't worry, as we'll be base coating with our first colours anyway. Starting off with a classic, we'll be cracking on with some bleached bone horns. Firstly, thin down our base paint onto a palette before applying Wraithbone all over the horn. We will want a few thin coats of this paint to really block out the area when painting over a dark undercoat. I'll be using a small base brush for the majority of this tutorial, but feel free to use whichever brush best suits you. Now we have our smooth Wraithbone layer applied, it's time to crack out some Skeleton Horde. We'll be thinning down to a 1 to 3 part mix with contrast medium. This is a perfect colour to give our horns that stained bone feel and will give us room to add more depth when we want to add more layers down the line. For the first layer, apply all over the horn by pulling the paint down to the base. With each of these steps, we will need to let each layer completely dry before moving on to the next. Next, apply a layer around halfway down the horn towards the base. Just be mindful of pooling, as we don't want to add too much onto each layer. Lastly, apply our final layer of Skeleton Horde right at the base of the horn. With each of these layers, you'll start to notice a slight gradient build-up towards the bottom, giving us a natural hornish fade. Now you can stop here, however we're going to push the boat out and add one extra little detail found on many horns in the world, a darkened peak. Thinning down some Cygor Brown to a 1 to 3 mix with contrast medium, we'll want to add this small detail to the top of the horn. We only need to hit the very peak for this effect. To do this, lightly stroke the brush off the top of the horn. Once the first layer has dried, repeat this step until you're happy with the colour. Next up, some dark brown horns. For this, we'll start with a base of Zandri Dust. Thin this down and apply a couple of coats for a smooth coverage. Now we have our base coat on, we'll move on to adding some character to these horns by darkening them down gradually with Targor Raid Shade. Targor Raid Shade is a fantastic reddish brown that will add some lovely warmth to your miniatures. We can use this straight from the pot. Bear in mind we shouldn't load our brush up too much if you want to avoid any pooling. I'm using a palette to control how much is on the bristles. If too much is applied, this can easily be mopped up with a dry, clean brush. Apply this shade several times, moving more towards the base of the horn for each layer. This will give us a subtle build-up of shading from top to bottom. You can stop at any time with these layers once you're happy with the effect. I've gone for 4 layers to really emphasize a natural colour change. If you're happy with the shading, you can happily stop here. If you'd like to add some extra depth, I'll be adding a very small amount of Cygor Brown straight from the pot to the base of the horn. This will really push the contrast between the shaded areas and the lighter peak. Lastly, we're going as dark as we can with these blackened horns. For this, a base coat of Skaven Blight Dinge has been applied in a few thin coats across the horns. Skaven Blight Dinge is one of my favourite greys for natural tones, being a little warmer and brown in its colour. As this example starts quite dark, I'll be applying a light dry brushing of Administratum Grey to lighten up the areas before we start shading the horns. Get a small amount of Administratum Grey onto our brush and really work it into the bristles on each side using a paper towel. When satisfied with the amount of pigment on our brush, lightly brush this across the whole horn to bring out some of those natural highlights. This especially works well on the more textured horns found on our miniature range. Now we're all dry brushed up, it's now time to tone these horns down. Thinning down our trusty Cygor Brown with contrast medium to a 1 to 3 mix, we will be applying this mix firstly over the whole horn, then with each layer after the last more towards the top of the horn. About 2 to 3 layers will be perfect for this, remembering to leave each layer to dry before moving on to the next. For the final touch, we'll be getting ourselves a drop of Black Templar, straight from the pot, and add a very small amount to the very top of the horn. This will really help to emphasise the darkest points on these bullish horns. And there we have it, 3 variations of horns ready to take up the mantle of skewering their foes upon. This tutorial is more about the techniques used, so feel free to experiment and try out some different colours in any of these examples to find the right horn style for you. For more painting videos, head over to our YouTube channel. And if you need more help, you can always head to one of our Warhammer stores where our friendly staff will be more than happy to help. Many thanks for watching, ciao for now, and see you in the next video.